Okay, so time to clean up our drawings. I decided that I would like to have all of these in the same document. So rather than inserting that one, since we already have a start, I'm going to see if I can grab sheet 1, hit Control C on the keyboard, switch over to the 65-6, and then let's see, where would I need to paste that? If I can come over here. So Control V on the keyboard before selected. Let's just go ahead and make it after. So it gives it a name of sheet 1, item 2. And if I go to its properties, then I'm just going to name this sheet 0 as a cleanup if I wanted to. If I'm getting enough sheets, I'll probably go back and do S1, S2, S3, and I can rename it at that point. Don't think I've mentioned type of projection, third angle, which is what we drew the symbol for. First angle basically just reverses. Always think of it as if I'm rotating the part in my hand counterclockwise, then I'm in third angle. If the part's sitting on the table and I'm rotating around the part counterclockwise, that's pretty much what I'm going to see in first angle. So we'll go ahead and apply those changes. Sheet 0 then can be dragged to the beginning, and we probably don't need to update that one. Oh, just noticed a slight mistake there, so we'll have to fix that one. Alright, so the test. If I go into the properties, we are going to select, and then all sheets. Well, don't really need to do 0 over, so we're just going to pick everything. Apply the changes. And then, well, got my break all edges in there. Let's do a Control Q. So those worked. Not sure why sheet 1 did not. So let's go back to properties. Let's just do a reload, apply. So better. Still didn't quite get my, oh wait a minute. Oh, okay, there we go. And then let's see what happened to this one. Oh, we didn't reload that one, so I guess we'll go ahead and do that one as well. So I really want those. Yeah, let's go ahead and let it delete and apply and update so that they all look consistent. Alright, so those we didn't add dimensions to yet. And everything else is looking pretty good. So we'll start with this one. And on my filters, which is the F5, I have across, I want to filter dimensions and hole callouts. So if that's on, I'm going to see that little funnel looking thing. And when I window pick, dimensions should be the only thing that gets selected. So I believe I can come down and do dims from the layer. Also on the other tab, I'm going to be able to change at that point as well. So that updates a little better. Let's drag this one back into that view. I kind of think that I wanted, oh wow, this was a control. Okay, so we get that one back over there. And not sure what that one is picking. So we'll do a control, pull the 0.68 over. And since that one's having issues, I'm just going to reattach it to the center point, see if that corrects it. Alright, so we have a duplicate 0.68 now. Just trying to kind of clean these up. And that one is picking its geometry now. Looks a little bit better to the center line, not quite going to the center. Okay, so I want to turn that filter off. I can deselect it or come over and hit the very far left to toggle all of them off. And I'm going to pick the center mark and set it to center. And that will pick up the magenta. And so that's looking a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. I can spread that out a little bit. and see if I missed anything. Alright, so we have all of our critical dimensions, but we haven't really run through a stack up, and since we don't know what the mating part looks like, we still have a few things to work through. Alright, so on this one, let's go ahead and see if we can bring in model items. We're going to do the entire model, marked for drawing, not marked for drawing. Let's see what we get. Alright, so everything came in, one angle on the side, and this is where that dragging and dropping. So since we were not in the DIMS, looks like everything, but I can go back to my filters. This time we'll go to other and DIMS. So those have the same results. So I need to clean those out, reposition, and decide if this is going to be the best method for manufacturing and inspection as we move forward with the project. Alright, but this gets me a pretty good start, and I think I mentioned that if I'm designing from scratch, not pre-existing details, then my numbers will pretty much be all over the place. You know, may not be the best numbers for manufacturing, in which case probably 90%, 99% of the time I don't do insert all model items. We can do it on these because it's a little quicker. So let's see what we get on this one. Model items marked for, and we want the entire model. So again, we get a few, and we got some center marks to clean up with. So I'm going to run through these, and so to that end, this is something that you're going to have to decide if it has value to you, and if it's going to be worthwhile. A lot of times I find that I can dimension for the manufacturing working drawings about as fast as I can sort through the model items and get everything where I want it and looking correct. Alright, so we come back to this one, and so everything's selected. Oh, I didn't have the filter on. We'll see what it does without the filter since it's in there. Alright, so apparently it didn't pick up anything too weird, and that will give me enough. And did I end up with an extra? Sure did. I ended up with an extra surface finish mark when I was applying that note. Alright, so that's going to be interesting. One of those ghost images. So that'd be another place where I need to pick those up and make the correction. Alright, so coming back to the beginning, if we want center lines, I can switch over to center. And my center line will be between two edges. It's not really long enough, so I can grab its endpoint, drag it out, and then if we go to a center mark, we'll just pick the arc and place it. And that one looks pretty good. So if we're trying to establish symmetry, one of the notations, I don't think it's going to come up on the center mark. We're actually going to have to apply it as an annotation, is to place the note. And no, I really didn't want the extension. Pick up our symbols, and we'll see if we can find, well, somewhere in there. So as we click through, if I see a symmetrical, pick those up, and possibly have the symmetry. Would rather not use the GD and T outside of use. A lot of times we'll use centerline, but I don't know that that's as universal. So, and we'll go ahead and go to the next one and come back to that. Alright, so same thing. If I pre-select and do the two edges and go into centerline, nope. Alright, so it doesn't look like it's going to let me have that one. So centerline first, and then we'll position. We'll come over to the center mark, highlight it, change it over to center, and the 2 center marks. So we're generating a little bit of contrast as we position these numbers and get everything a little more refined as we go through the detailing process. Then it'll have a little more visibility, readability for our objects. Alright, so let's see, we have a center mark, and then our whole call out goes over to DEMS. And then last, we have the center marks in the slot. And DEMS doesn't look like it pulled out a radius anywhere. And notice, even though these were drawn in metric, it is converting over to inches. So if we need metric or we need to dual dimension, then that's something that we can look at on our next pass. Okay, so that gives us pretty well complete. There's still more cleanup, but as I go through these passes, typically I'm looking at this in terms of a subassembly. So part of my iterative process is to bring in the first part, basically building a roadmap of how the subassembly is going to be constructed. And I'm starting to think about how the pieces fit together, where the tolerances are going to stack up, and dialing in those numbers as I go. So I don't have to think about it all at once, but it becomes a progression and an evolution of the project.